It is May 28th. It's about 9:30 in the morning and it's around 70 degrees Fahrenheit already. So our high today is expected to reach around 87 degrees, and we don't have rain, a real good rain forecast for at least a week. There's about a 50% chance next Wednesday. So it's hot and dry right now, and I'd love to just share with y'all a few tips about how I take care of my herb container garden this time of year when it's really heating up and they need a lot of water and pruning. And if you don't have a container garden already, get out there and get you a container and just start growing something. It makes everything taste so much better when you just have a few herbs to put on your meals. Even if it's just rice, you have parsley, makes it great, okay? So first I want to show you here, you'll notice that I have some herbs off to the right and then some off to the left. And if you're not following me over on my community tab, make sure that you've clicked the bell by the subscribe button so you'll receive notifications from my channel, because I try to give updates over there to show what I'm doing kind of behind the scenes in case I haven't been able to do a video. And so over there, I think last week I shared that I have moved my cooler season herbs off to the right so they'll receive some afternoon shade from my house, and off to the left are the warm season, and they love that hot weather. So I have my herbs off to the left, like a little tomato plant, which are the little tiny tomatoes. I consider that almost an herb because they're so tiny. And then we have like basil and rosemary off to the left, okay? So I'm just going to do a little bit of tending to my garden here this morning, and I want to show you kind of how I keep it watered and some of the things I do when we get that hot, dry weather. I'd also like to add that my deck up here gets about, I would say, almost 10 degrees hotter than just the ambient air temperature, because this deck, I guess it just heats up and absorbs a lot of the heat from the sun. So it gets really hot up here. I have to keep my eye on these herbs or they'll just dry up. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of the things that are growing here. So I added a few more annuals to my hanging baskets. So hopefully those will start to take off here very soon. Now right here is the sweet pea currant tomato, and it's already setting some little tiny fruit. These are just a little tiny, I call them tomato berries, and I love to just throw them on a salad. They're just wonderful to have around in the summer, and they grow great in containers. And again, that's called a sweet pea currant. Okay, right here is a Thai basil, and I also have a few scallions that are coming up. I'm always throwing my scallion seeds in my containers, so I've told y'all that many times, but they just grow great with other herbs, and so I'm always trying to just sow a few scallions here and there. And that just helps me plant them in succession throughout the spring, summer, and fall. And then my fall plantings make it through the winter, and then I have them to enjoy again in the spring. So I always like to have fresh scallions. Now, one of the things I start to do when my basil starts to reach a nice height like this and starts to get a lot of leaves, and sometimes even before this when it just has about 6 true leaves, is I'll prune it, and this will just help it bush out. And so always try to prune your herbs, and you will have more new growth coming onto your plant, and that's always a good thing. Fresh new herbs are just so wonderful. Okay, so I want to show you how to prune your basil. Now, what you'll do is just take a look up underneath your leaves, and you'll notice that there are some leaves coming out to the side, like this right here. So you want to cut it right above the fresh new growth, okay? Even if you don't have to use it, go ahead and cut it. So you always want to put your basil, after you've cut it, in fresh water, and you want to do that so that it won't start wilting, because once your basil has started to wilt over, it's impossible to bring it back to life. And also, do not store it in your refrigerator. So just put it out on your counter and throw it in some eggs or something like that. Tonight I'm cooking pasta, so I'll use it in some pasta. So let me show you again where I cut it. Okay, so right here, you notice there's some new leaves coming out here and here. Okay, and in the middle is where I cut it, right there. Okay, and now those will grow out and it'll start to bush out. Okay, so this is my rosemary plant. It's doing great. I've been keeping it watered. Always keep your rosemary watered. And then right here I have some more basil. This is not doing too well here. This one, let me see if I can prune it yet. Okay, now this basil plant has a little bit of growth coming out from the sides, and I can go ahead and just take off the top. You can see in the light there are two little leaves coming out here. Okay, so that should be fine. Okay, this basil is called an Italian large leaf basil, and this just looks so beautiful. I've had the seeds for this particular variety, I want to say about 9 years now. So basil seeds last a long time, and it just always does real well. So we want to go ahead and also prune this. Some nice basil there. So just to show you one more time, I cut it right in the middle, and I have some new side growth coming out there on the side. Now those will come straight out and it'll bush out, and that'll make it real nice. And then my little kaffir lime tree that I'm growing from seed. Okay, and this is the lavender. It's about to burst into bloom any day now. And then I've sowed some seeds for some basil over here to the left, and they're not up yet. And then off to the right is just some oregano that I grew from seed last year. I don't prefer the flavor of that oregano, so I'm probably going to pull it out and plant some basil seeds there instead, because I like to kind of plant basil about once every month through the summer. Now, one thing I want to show you is how I water my garden out here. I do not have a water spigot, so I rely on just buckets of water, tap water from inside the house. Ideally, it would be nice to have a rain barrel, but I don't have one up here. I know it would be very heavy on the deck anyway if I had one up here. So I just use 2 buckets. I will fill one up and come outside with it and water while the other one is also filling up in the sink. So I kind of just do it that way. It takes a few trips, but I do this about twice a week if it's not raining at all. And I'll show you how I water. I'll water one of my plants for you just to show you, but I watered everything really well yesterday. So I'm going to water my mint, and mint is one of those plants that always needs a lot of water. So I'll just take my bucket, and I want to just water it at the base, not from overhead, and I will water it until it comes through to the saucer down below. And I did this yesterday, and the saucer was full of water yesterday evening, and so the plant has already taken up all that water. Had there been standing water in the little saucer this morning, I would have known that plant has plenty of water, and I would have actually emptied out the water in the saucer, because you really don't want your plants just sitting in water without oxygen for more than, I'd say, 36 hours, because it causes problems with the roots. So you don't want to drown your plant, just know that. But a lot of these plants are going to need a lot of water here over the next week for sure. Okay, so I'm getting some water down in here. That's plenty. If I check it this evening and that water is gone, I'll know this plant is really wanting some water right now. That soil is just wicking it up, and the root system on the plant is just drinking it. So, but if the water's still there, I know that plant is good for at least a week. Okay, so once I've watered all of my plants that way, then I like to fertilize them. And what I use is just a water-soluble vegetable plant food. Sometimes I use an organic, sometimes I'll just use like a Miracle Grow. I don't use the all-purpose. That has too much nitrogen in it, and I feel like that real fast growth spurt stresses my plants out, because the all-purpose usually has a lot of nitrogen. So try to stick with just a vegetable plant food that's water-soluble. And I don't mix it according to the directions. I mix it about half strength. And I'll pour 1 cup of it at the base of each plant after they've been watered real well so they don't burn the root system. So you want to make sure you water your plants real well before you fertilize them. Okay, so for example, I actually fertilized my plants yesterday, but I'll just show you and give you an example of how I do it. I'll just take 1 cup of diluted fertilizer and I'll pour it at the base of my plant after it's been watered real well, as I mentioned, and I do that for all my plants. Okay, about once every 10 days. And then in this container over here next to my apple mint, I have some scallions growing. They're coming up pretty well there. And then I have the garlic chives and then just the regular common chive. And this is one of the tarragon plants that I divided at the beginning of the season. I haven't found a place to put it yet, but I did move one out to my other square foot garden at the river. And I'll show y'all that pretty soon. I hope to get out there and do a video. And the cilantro looks really beautiful right now. I've been using that with a few things. I hope to show y'all some recipes soon. And then just some more chives, which I have cut back recently. They're growing pretty well. I watered them real good yesterday and gave them a little fertilizer. Okay, parsley is looking really good here, as well as the sage and the tarragon, which I've been cutting on quite a bit, and you can notice it's getting kind of bushy. Okay, lemon thyme is just really taking off, looking great. The mint here is recovering from the heat over the weekend because I was not around. I was out of town, and when I returned last night it was just completely wilted over. So I watered it real well. As a matter of fact, I'll probably go ahead and water it again. Okay, and then the scallions over here are looking really good. Right now I'm using scallions from my square foot garden for cooking, and after I've used my other ones I'll start on those right there. Dill looks great. And now the final container. This has 30 pockets in it, and they are all doing great. Okay, so I'll show you some of the things that are growing. Just a few lettuces, different types. This is Lola Rosa. And then down here I have some turnip greens. I've been clipping those pretty regularly. Spinach, I have a whole row, probably 5 pockets, 6 pockets of spinach. This is called Chinese kale. I've been using that as well. And then just some red romaine, I believe, is what I have growing over here. You can see those. Again, some more Chinese kale. And then, of course, the fennel, looking really nice. I also fed each pocket about a half a cup of the fertilizer yesterday. Same way that I feed my other herbs. Okay, I think this is some parsley here. And then, of course, the nasturtiums right down here, doing great. Arugula is popping back real nice for me. I'll be throwing that in a salad here soon. And, well, just a lot of little different herbs, parsley here and there. I also have some basil in here. Okay, so I'll probably harvest a lot of this spinach here soon. And I may pop in some more basil seeds over here, along with some more scallion seeds. Then I'll show you how I water the green stalk. I usually like to just take a bucket of water and just pour it all in here like this. Okay, so that makes it super easy. Those of you who are familiar with this system know that the water will go down through that middle hole into each drip tray that's in the GreenStalk system. And then when all those trays are full, there's an overflow where it comes out the bottom through a tube. Okay, so it's just kind of a slow drip irrigation system. Super easy to water, and I've just really enjoyed using it. Now this is one of the first GreenStalk systems. The newer ones have lines on the side to show you the fill line for each. If you have like a 3-tier, a 4-tier, or a 5-tier, it'll show you where to fill it up. But I usually just take a bucket and I throw it in there like that, and it's so easy. The only thing about the GreenStalk system, and this is not even really a big thing at all, is that you just need to refresh that soil once a year. I usually do that in the early spring. Make sure you put some new soil in there with some compost and maybe some vermiculite, and that's how I like to work the system. I've tried to get by one year without refreshing my soil, and it didn't do as well. So FYI on that. Okay, so that's the GreenStalk system, and I will leave information below the video to show all the different things I've grown in them. I have 3 of them, and so I'll also leave a discount code if you're interested in it. That way you can also enjoy it this summer and always into the fall as well. So there you go. If y'all have any questions, I'll be more than happy to help you. Just leave them down below the video. Thanks so much for watching, and y'all have a beautiful day.